Awesome. Thanks for jumping on this Script Mastermind. Hey, I know we just started, but let's do this more often, right? If there's anything that was crucial to a real estate agent's success, is their communication skills with people. It's a people-oriented business. The better you are with your conversations, the better you are in building trust and getting over objections, just the more business you're going to have, period. So we have some great volunteers, some that slay the phones like Greig. Manny is on the line, Melanie McGuire, Nadia as well, that are going to help us out with some of the topics that you see here. Seller objections like, I want to sell, but I don't think I will find the right home. Home prices are too high. Why should I sell if I'm just going to go buy high? Hey, it's going to sell fast. Do I really have to pay you all that commission? Live connect calls that we're getting in multiple sources, whether it's Zillow, Opcity, Ojo, getting buyer broker sign. And if we can squeeze it in FSBOs and expireds. So I have this ridiculous trophy here at the office, right? And this is a power lifter. And we'll hand this out to the phone lifting champion because we like to celebrate those who are willing to pick up the phone and make things happen. Sometimes for a lot of agents, this phone will weigh about 10,000 pounds, right? It's the hardest thing to pick up. It's the hardest thing to do. But the key to your dream sometimes is right on the other end of this in creating more appointments. So I'm glad that you're here today. I hope that you utilize some of this info that's here. So let's rock and roll. Let's start off with market of the moment calls, and how about live connection calls? So let's go ahead and start with that. Now, Melanie McGuire has volunteered a few times for this. So she is ready on these calls. So give us a little insight on your mindset on these, and let's get into some scripting here that has worked for you.
Okay, fun. How's everybody doing? Good. Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. So the reason why I want to share about live connection calls is if you're an agent with us at Premier Group, you constantly hear about ALM, to the point where today when one of the agents on the call was like, what's ALM? I'm like, you don't work for us. What brokerage are you with? Because you would have heard it 1,000 times, right? And so the reason why I love ALM so much is 4 years ago when we were working with Zillow and they were starting a program called Flex, they wanted to develop a script that converted at a really high level. So if you guys don't know, Live Connect leads conversions are a 1.9%. And so that's not bad, but it's not amazing, right? You always want to convert a little higher. But on average nationwide, a Live Connect lead is going to convert at a 1.9%. And so what we found with this script, and if you see it on Zillow, it's a little tweaked from what we do because ours is a little bit more direct. I like our agents to be very direct and kind of control that call. It eliminates objections and a million conversations that need to happen face to face. But what we found with our offices is with Zillow specifically, we have an 8 to 13% conversion rate. We are not in a 1.9%. And we get new agents, we get agents who've been seasoned but never done Live Connect leads. So it's not that we get like all these agents that have closed millions of dollars in deals. And we get agents that are new to this business, but take the tools and convert at really high levels. So your introduction with Live Connect leads is scripts. And where people aren't just stopping into offices anymore. They're not coming to get business like they did years ago where we'd all rotate in an office. They're coming on the phone. So you're just basically needing to know, how do I convert a client and not have a 20-minute conversation on the phone when a million of those questions need to happen face to face, right? So this script was developed by Zillow. We've tweaked it a little bit over time, and I love it. And what I'd love to do is play some of the calls so y'all can hear it live, and then have Manny jump in, because Manny has really, and I have a couple agents on the call, Evan, Dana, Ramel, they've really taken it and kind of honored this script. And whenever they'll kind of tweak from it, I'm like, hey guys, because I know what's going to happen. They're going to be like, these leads suck. And I'm like, no, you're just not talking to them right? So that's kind of why I wanted to share with you guys, because I think majority of us, as in the brokerage, are taking Live Connect leads. So this is not just for Zillow. You should be using this on every single Live Connect lead call, because there's no point in you picking up the phone and having a random conversation and not knowing how to convert a client. You might as well just not pick up, right? It just wastes everybody's time, and you're frustrated. And that's why agents think leads suck, is because they don't know how to convert them. Okay. So I'd love to start by just sharing with you guys ALM, and I'll be happy to send this script to Troy and send it out to everybody. So if I can share my screen, I'll show you guys. Oh, I don't know. It's not letting me share screen.
All right. Well, I'll work on this.
That's okay. If they can't, it's not a big deal. But what ALM is it's a very direct script about appointment, location, motivation. That's what it stands for. And what it is it's a very simple, direct script. So when a live connect lead is coming in, they're being vetted for 20 to 30 minutes. And what most agents do is they get on that call once they connect you and they're like, hi, how's your day going? And the client's like, freaking awful. Like I just sat on the phone for 30 minutes waiting to just see a dang house. Like just give me what I want, right? So give them what they want. So right when they connect that call, you just hit them. Hi, this is Melanie with First Class Real Estate. I see you're looking at 123 Main Street. I'd love to show it to you. Just tomorrow at 2 o'clock work. You're booking the appointment. It's direct. It's giving them what they want. It's not wasting time. And also people don't like to be sold over the phone. You're not trying to be like, hi, it's Melanie. Oh, how are you doing? No, I'm here to do business and giving you what you want, right? So you book the appointment. The next is the location. So you're finding out not necessarily where they want to live, but kind of how much they've, searched already. So once you book the appointment, the next phase of it is what most of my buyers find helpful is that I add a few other properties with similar characteristics to compare to this one. And we all know why we're using that wording is because 123 Main Street is probably not available. And so we need to be able to get out of that and not give them bad news over the phone. If you're giving bad news over the phone, they have no ties to, there's no loyalty, they will not show up to the appointment. Okay. And then, so you're finding out, so you follow that with, so what are some of your must-haves in your home? It opens dialogue. They get to talk about what's important to them, which should now start to become important to you. Last is, so just to recap, we're all set to meet at 2 o'clock tomorrow. You didn't say where. You say, I will let you know what house we will meet at first. I will send you a text right after this call so you have my personal information and we can stay connected. So just so you guys know, that gets you out of every problem. So when you're done, your follow-up procedures, and I'd love Manny to kind of share what he does with his, but we have certain follow-up procedures that come into play after this that really matter. Because if you guys aren't doing those follow-up procedures afterwards, they don't know if you're showing up to the appointment or Alex the robot is showing up to the appointment. It's like a whirlwind. They've been pushed through every single section to get vetted for you, which is great, but then they're so confused. So Manny, I would love for you to share, I really love how you address your follow-up procedures because it's almost more critical than the phone call. So when you hang up that call, can you share with, your card, like what you go through? But yeah, you're muted. It's okay.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. First off, when I started doing ALM, I probably, like most of y'all, just tried to do the script over and over. And I just found that, like, a lot of times once I had my pipeline built up, I was in the car and other places, and I didn't necessarily have the script handy. So I've got my today folder, and I just kind of taped the script right to the front of it. And I keep it on the driver's seat of my car next to my laptop and my book bag. And whenever I fumble up or get nervous or something like that, I just go for this thing and boom, it just helps me push right along. So just to recap there, once you go through that part, we'll see you tomorrow. I let people know that I'm going to send them 2 text messages right after we hang up. And I'll say the last 4 digits of their telephone number, is that your good cell phone? And then they'll say yes. And then I'll say the first text message will be my contact card that you can open up and download to your Apple iPhone or your Android. Note that I work on an Apple, and when it goes to an Android person, it's a little different than when it goes to a direct Apple. So sometimes if I'll ask them, if they have an Android, click on the link and then just, scroll to the bottom of it and you'll see add to your phone as a new contact. It's a little bit more direct with Apple. And then the second text message that I'll send, in whichever order I think of at that time, is my digital business card. For $50, I had this graphic designer make me literally a digital business card, and I'm sure you could use a picture of your regular business card, but this to me was just a little bit more professional and worth the $50. So, and I just say, I'm going to send you my contact and my digital business card with a picture of me, so that you can put a face to a voice or something to that effect. It changes a little bit from time to time, but that's the overall message.
Yeah, I love it. And those follow-up procedures, thank you, Manny. Those follow-up procedures matter because what Manny's doing is he's giving a face to the name. So I recommend agents send a digital business card, or I recommend them send a video of themselves with that digital business card. Like, hi, this is Melanie with First Class Real Estate. It was great speaking with you. Look forward to meeting you at the appointment. Reach out if you need anything. You know, just want to put a quick face to the name. Face to the name is critical. And I'll tell you guys, when we started having agents do more videos afterwards, we would get clients that video us back. Like, hey, this is Mary and Joe that you'll be meeting us. So it was a nice like introduction. And we got that because a team in Arizona said their met with rate was a little low. So they talked to the clients, but the clients wouldn't show up at the house. So they started doing this face to the name video and had their met with rate jump from 41% to a 99%. They really never had a time people weren't coming. And they found that it was a majority of the time it was women meeting a male agent, that they would kind of get a little nervous. So they would see the face, name, get comfortable and show up. So your agents don't have to do that, or as agents, you don't have to do that video, but it's a generic video saved in your phone, takes 2 seconds. Okay.
I think that's a great idea. And look, I get a little nervous meeting male agents as well. So I totally
right. Right. Especially first class ones.
So just a couple things here to kind of hammer this home that, you know what, Manny, one thing I really appreciated that you mentioned is that you have a plan, right? So it's like no loose ends. It's, hey, okay, we're going to set the appointment to go see this. By the way, you're going to get 2 text messages. So you're going to be able to reach me direct. And now I'm taking you out of the wild, that you're out there in the wilderness and you're lost. Who's my go-to? You're immediately establishing I'm your go-to, and I'm going to make it easy for you to find me in your phone. So I love that. The video follow-up is powerful because there are plenty of scientific studies show that. That's why there's warm photos, right? That's why we as agents are all using our photos from 10 years ago, right? When we look great. And video, they immediately start to, it's a way of building rapport right away. They get much more comfortable with you. So there was something in the chat. Melanie, you wanted to mention this, but this is a super common problem that we want to make sure that people can overcome, which is most homes are under contract. I want to see 123 Main Street tomorrow at 3 o'clock. You got it. I'm an agent. I go online. It's under contract. What now?
Bad news, right? So now you got to call the client and do bad news if you didn't use ALM. But because you used ALM, you said you're getting other properties to compare, and I'll let you know what home we're going to meet at first. We don't tell them that 123 Main Street isn't under contract because it's a 5% chance they're going to buy it. And honestly, in this market, it's a 0. So you had a 5% chance in a good market, and we're not in a good market, right? So you are looking at a home. You're not attaching to a home, you're attaching to building a relationship. And if you give them bad news over the phone or in a text, they're not showing up. They'll call back again. They'll try to find the listing agent because they have to have this house. But when you show up to the property, because you let them know we're meeting at 127 Main Street, and then we'll see the other properties after, and you let them know, oh, it's so great to meet you in person. Unfortunately, 123 Main Street is under contract, but I'm so excited to show you these other 3 properties. 3 properties is your sweet spot. If you can show a client 3 properties, it's enough time for them to have invested time in you if you're asking the right questions. You don't just open the door and be a glorified door opener. You ask them what's important to them. Why are they looking in this area? Why is the backyard important to you? Who's going to live in the house? You're finding all of these things out, but you're never, ever, ever asking them about a lender until those first 3 showings are over. Doesn't matter if they're approved over the phone. If you are unable as an agent to get past, I will only work with pre-approved buyers, you're in the wrong industry, because we are not going to get people who are always pre-approved and ready to go, right? But we find ways to make sure that we can get them ready to go with other programs. So, you know, this ALM I'm super passionate about because I see my agents that do really well and they're consistently using it. And then I see my agents that struggle a little bit and they don't. And so the saying in my office is, you know, and it's kind of, you know, maybe a little is what it is. Top producers train, average agents complain, right? Leads are bad, learn ALM. What it is.
And, you know, the momentum of the phone call is important because something you did mention was like, this isn't getting the life story in 30 minutes. It's
Right.
momentum, finding out that motivation, setting that appointment, and then, you know, following through with action. And whether the house is under contract or not, the plan is the same. You have to offer some other choices because statistically, rarely will they choose that one house. And they're going to be making the best choices when they have options. And it does establish you as, hey, look, I found options that you probably didn't find online. And how often is that? They see one house on Zillow or something, and you're looking on the MLS and you notice, well, what about this one right across the street that has more square footage and costs less, and it's remodeled? And that's when you really show your value. All right, just so some can we do a couple of calls here just so some
Yeah,
can
it'll
hear
be
the
fun.
flow of
Okay.
this?
Since I can't share my screen,
You
I'm
can share it. I changed it.
You can't
You
now?
have
Okay.
the power.
Okay, yes, awesome. Well, if you, and I might not need it. If you guys can hear this, then we're good to go. So I'm going to start off with a call from this morning. And I'll start with Dana. Everybody has gotten approval to let me play their call. So, so we'll start with this one first.
Hi there, Alex here. I'm connecting you to a local agent now.
Hey Gabby, this is Dana Denunzio with First Class Real Estate, and I've partnered with Zillow to be your local buying and selling expert. How are you?
Great, what about you?
I'm doing well. I see that you're interested in looking at 117 West 3rd Street in Manchester.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you available tomorrow morning around 10 o'clock to go look?
I was really hoping I could get in today.
Okay, I can check with the sellers to check their availability. If they can't get us an appointment today, what's your schedule like tomorrow or Friday?
Actually, we'll be unavailable those days, so I probably have to try like next week.
Okay, well, let me see what we can do for today. What's your, what time today are you hoping for?
Probably around 2:30.
Okay, all right, and then it's usually helpful if we can add on a couple other properties, and that way you can compare and contrast. What are some of the things that you're looking for in your next home?
I just mainly came across that one. I really liked the old timiness, I guess. I'm not really looking into new builds or anything like that.
Okay, so you like the character.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how many bedrooms and bathrooms are you hoping for?
4 bathrooms and probably 4 to 6 baths, or my bad, bedrooms.
Okay. And then are you looking specifically in the Manchester area, or are you open to other areas?
Manchester and Warm Springs.
Okay. All right, well, let me see if we can get an appointment today at 2 o'clock. And in the meantime, I'm going to look to see if there's any other homes that have around 4 to 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. And we'll go from there.
Awesome.
I'm going to send you a text message with my name and number. That way we can keep in contact, and I will know you which house to meet me at.
That sounds good.
All right, is there anything else that I can do for you?
No, ma'am, that'd be all for right now.
All right, well, I will be in contact with you here shortly.
All righty, thank you so much.
All right.
Okay. So everybody heard that one okay?
That was almost like a perfect call. And it's hard to believe that was even a real call. That sounded so good.
And it's repeated over and over again, but I'll tell you, when they don't use ALM and they say, hi, how are you? Good, how are you? And it starts off that way, it turns into, how many bedrooms does it have? What's the floor plan? Do they have high ceilings? Like, they start to ask so much about the house that the agent doesn't know, because the rule is we don't look at property when it comes in. When it comes in, get your earbuds on, you just talk it out. It doesn't matter about the property. We're not looking at homes. We're not looking them up, right? So you don't know anything. So you want to control that call.
Yeah, we've all heard those calls when you can tell when the agent's trying to find it on the app or online, and all it is, you have 2 people on the phone and all you hear is breathing.
Yes,
and that momentum is gone.
It's gone, and you can feel it, like, or not just feel it, but hear it, and you feel uncomfortable when you're listening to the call. As I listen to all these calls, is because the agent starts off good and the client's in a great mood, and then you feel a client just totally getting irritated. And it's where these calls, the client stays steady, happy, and usually happier by the end. That's how you want your clients to feel before they meet you. That's your initial groundwork, you know, in building that relationship. So, all right, you guys want to hear one more?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do Manny. Manny, it's your turn.
Hi there, Alex here. I'm connecting you to a local agent now.
Hey, Philip, good morning. This is Manny Castañas, your Zillow Premier Agent. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Super. I see you're interested in 3049 White Oak in Decatur. Do you have availability to go see that tomorrow, let's say around noon?
No, I work overnight now, and I don't. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hold on for a second. Hold on.
Sure thing.
Real life stuff here, guys.
This one this morning.
Yeah, this is the story.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, I'm here, Philip. How you doing?
Okay, yeah, I work overnight. No, 12 is not good yet. I get off at 7, sometimes 7:30 in the morning. That's why I told her.
Yeah, you want to go first thing in the morning then?
Tomorrow is Thursday morning.
Yes, sir.
What time in the morning?
Let's say 9:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. You got it. Absolutely. What a lot of my other clients find useful is that I find similar properties with the same characteristics as the one that you're looking at, so that we have something to compare. What are some of your must-haves in this next home?
You mean characteristics, meaning the same amount of money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Same
okay.
price point, same
Yeah.
your must-have list.
Yeah.
Or wants, should I say wants?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was. That house looked, you know, it looked nice. I was. It looked real good. Something similar to that.
Okay.
Fine.
Perfect.
You know,
I'll
price
pull a couple properties that look
And,
like that one.
It's the South DeKalb County area.
South DeKalb it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. What I'm going to do after we hang up here is I'm going to send you 2 text messages. One that has a digital business card with a picture of me, and then the other is my contact card, so that you can either save it down to your Apple phone or your Android, whatever device that you have. Okay.
Okay.
And then I'm going to call you back after once I have the property confirmed. But I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Okay, you'll call me back. How long that's going to be? Because I'm about to go to sleep.
It'll be in a text message for you when you wake up later.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead and go to sleep. And what time do you wake up at?
It just depends.
I'll call you later this evening.
Maybe 6:30, something like that.
You got it. Well, enjoy your night's sleep, and you'll hear from me again. But we will be at this property tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take care, Philip.
Hi there, Alex here.
Hold on.
I'm connecting you to
Okay, it just keeps going. Sorry. Okay, well, I hope that was beneficial for y'all. I love being able to play the call so you can hear the other side. I actually don't have bad calls to share with you. Like I typically will have like a couple of them that I'm like, see where this could have gone a little bit better, but the agents are just so diligent about doing it. But typically what will happen if on a bad call, it's not like any call is bad, but on a call that kind of derails, is you ask the other person how they're doing. How's your day going? Let me look up the property. Then it starts to just unravel and you end up being on the phone for 13 minutes. So Zillow says live connection calls should be 5 minutes or under. The ideal live connection call is 3 minutes or under. Me and Zillow debate about it all the time. I do not think it takes 5 minutes. 3 minutes under. If you're going over that, it starts to open up questions that you don't know. 3 minutes or under.
So, let's say if, you don't have access to Zillow leads, something like OpCity or like Ojo, where you have these live connect, it pretty much all applies. It's somebody in the same sort of position of wanting to see something and then you setting that appointment.
Yeah, this is Zillow's script that they kind of came up with, that we've tweaked, but we use it for all live connect leads.
We had something in chat that mentioned, okay, well, let's say somebody's calling on a specific property, but there's no other homes that are as specific as what they're looking for. You don't have a plan B option. Now what?
Door knock. Find an option. Like, this is what we do. You don't go to the doctor. They're like, oh, I can't figure out what's wrong with you, right? The doctor figures it out. You can door knock a neighborhood. They like an area. Hi, this is Melanie with First Class. I have a qualified buyer that'd love to live in your area. Are you looking to sell or anyone else? You can also start to take them outside of that area. So maybe they find out why. So maybe you do have to have that conversation a little bit more upfront. But if you can show them that first house, then just go to that one house, right? Inventory is low. At least meet them there. And if the house is under contract, meet them in front of the house and tell them you're so sorry you just found out that this home is under contract. But get face to face with them, because if you don't get face to face, you're not going to close a deal. And you have to make sure, because what Zillow statistics show is if you make face to face, you have a 92% close rate. You don't, I don't even know what it would be. Low.
Yeah, that's the key, is that, meeting people in person. At that point, you are well on your way to having a new client. And sometimes what we do is we get trapped in a relationship of, we met them on the phone. They wanted to see 123 Main Street. It wasn't available. We didn't have a good enough plan B option or follow-up conversation to meet them. And now we're waiting for that next house before we're going to meet them again. And they get trapped in Nurtureville, forever.
Yeah.
And that's a common problem for a lot of agents.
You just got to meet them. And honestly, if you don't book an appointment, what happens is other agents in our office will be like, I got a phone call from that client, but the client didn't get what they wanted on the call. So they call back again and it got routed to another one of our agents. So if you don't do that initial call, you just wasted, unfortunately, your time.
So I did ask in chat, but I did want to ask open to our 70 friends that are on here, and I'm glad that you're on here today. What sort of what's holding you back on some calls? What sort of objections are you hitting that's really just kind of making this a difficult process for you? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and fire away on an objection on buyer calls.
Hi there, this is Kelly with First Class in Wisconsin. I have a quick question. I actually just typed it in the chat, but I figured I'd ask. In the event that you confirm a meeting time or an appointment time with a client, but that time is actually not available to view the property, then what happens next?
So you're focused on the property. We're not focusing on the property. We're focusing on the client and the book time. So you're going to compare homes. So you should have several other properties. So it doesn't matter. That one doesn't work. Another one doesn't work. At least you get 3 is ideal, but as long as you get 1 or 2 homes to show them in a tight market, you're meeting face to face at a house, because you didn't say which house you're meeting at first. You book the appointment and you let them know that you'll text them which home we're going to meet at first. So it's not about that house. So if that one doesn't work, it's okay. You'll have other options.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else with any sort of objections? I know that sometimes we run into this, which is somebody who literally is, clicking, they want a property tour, they want to find out info about the house, but they just want to know if it's available, but will refuse to set an appointment to go see it. I was like, okay, hey, you want to see 123 Main Street? Well, I just want to know, is it available? It's like, okay, now what? How do we kind of nudge that forward into an in-person meeting or a showing?
I would automatically say I can show it to you at 3
I
o'clock.
have one.
Okay, what do you got?
Okay, so here's the scenario. This is Kim, First Class, Gulf to Bay in Tampa. And all I want is the listing agent. I can get a better deal if I speak to the listing agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
have any answers for these because we don't get them, right? So it could be because the conversation's getting too expanded on the Live Connect call. We don't get them. I mean, I don't hear those on our calls. I don't have an answer.
What if
So-
it's not a live transfer? Because a lot of times you'll call the person, you'll get like a non-live transfer, right? You'll get a, hey, you just got a realtor.com lead. This is where it works in Northern Virginia. We don't get a lot of live transfers and, you know, with our purchases with Up City or anything. So we have to call them, and generally they'll be like, I just want to talk to the listing agent. And you haven't even gotten into the conversation. Like you haven't even, you know.
You don't get those. Like
So
we get
I'll throw a couple out there. I'll throw a couple out there for you on, you know, how we would handle that. Because, you know, we would do that. We would basically have a lot of buyers who would want to reach the listing agent because they felt that would help them be more competitive in a multiple offer market, or would help them save money somehow, right? Like somehow they would only have to pay half the commission or something. So basically, you know, the two things we'd say is, you know, hey, you know, I understand there are some listing agents that only represent sellers and don't want to represent buyers. And that's why they, you know, they put it on the market in this such a way. Let me do this. Let me communicate with the listing agent for you and find out if, you know, if they want somebody to be represented by a buyer. And if you wanted to see the property, I can set the appointment at that time. How about tomorrow at 3? So you could still be the go-between, right? And still show the home. You know, the other is, hey, you know, tell me you only want to deal with a listing agent. Tell me more about that. Why is that? Sometimes if you find out why, then you can see the misconception that somehow they're going to save on commission. That's going to make them more competitive, right? So you can try to objection handle your value quickly on that. But you also may be able to mention that, you know, Miss Buyer, I totally understand you want to communicate direct to the listing agent, but you remember, the listing agent was hired to represent the seller and has the seller's interest in mind. Who has your back when it comes to negotiating and inspections and repairs and making sure that your needs are met? So like, I'd love to set this appointment for you. For some reason, if I'm not the right person to help you with this property, I totally respect that. And then you can go find the agent that makes the most sense for you. How about that? So I'm kind of working on who has their back. But first I want to find out why only to the listing agent, then try to work in with value.
Hey,
So,
Troy,
yep.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Please
So
do.
For both Maggie and Kim, the other thing I'd be saying is I always try and validate what they're saying, right? So it's we know that what they're asking or what they're going after is not really useful to them or not really important, but they don't know that. So I do a lot of, if you ever read any of my scripts that I use the word super or excellent or awesome or that's beautiful a lot, because I'm trying to congratulate them on whatever it is that they happen to be thinking. And then I validate that. And then you're able to turn it into like what Troy is saying there is then you're able to, so what's the motivation behind that? Right. So that's awesome. I understand you want to see the speak only to the listing agent. That's very common. That's excellent of you. Can I ask you, what was it that you're hoping to gain out of that process? Right. And then you're able to turn it into, again, using the scripts. I like Melanie's use of scripts and what they've taught with their agents. That's huge, because then when you scripts ingrained in you, then all those questions that you need to ask just become natural, and you're able to use your brain now to focus on the sideways parts of the conversations that happen. So
well, this is a great segue here. So Dave Greig of First Class Integrity in Chesapeake, Virginia, for those who don't know. And Dave was going to join us a little bit more on follow-up. And being a branch leader like myself, I get a chance to peek into everyone's CRM. And Dave was really good as far as knowing the story of his clients, who they were, their spouse, where they worked, sometimes kids, pets' names, what their motivation was. So once he got them as clients, he really dove deep into understanding their motivations and who they were. But follow-up, he coached a lot of agents on follow-up. So, share more of your insight on that as far as, you might have met somebody through a live connect. You might have looked at 123 Main Street or a couple of others, but now they're still on the fence, or it might have been a lead that we haven't met in person, and they're just kind of dabbling. And how, what's your thoughts on follow-up?
Perfect. No, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen here. I need to say thank you to our admin, Legna, did a beautiful job of putting a little PowerPoint presentation here for me. Are you guys able to see what I'm seeing right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So this is very important, where we've got some basic stats where 48%, nearly 50% of people make one phone call and then they give up. So this is where I want to bounce back to a little bit of what Melanie said about like the Live Connect normal conversion is 1.9%, so 2%. But even with their Zillow Connect, and they're talking about 8 to 13% conversion rate, which is phenomenal. So I highly recommend get that ALM script down if you're not already using it. But that still leaves on the top end 13%. There's still 87% of the people have some interest out there in some kind of buying a property, and you're not getting them on that first conversion call. Right. So what do you do with them? And it's whether or not it's somebody that's already dropped into your CRM, or it's somebody that got transferred to you, or it's an old lead that you got because you came new on the team. Right. This is that's what I'm going to focus on here, is how to work that secondary lead is what I'll call it. Right. So 40% of it, salespersons make one call, 25% stop after the second phone call, another 12% stop after 3 times. 10% keep calling, and we know that 80% of all sales are made after the 5th call. So it's about the follow-up, which is where you're using your CRM, and persistence and follow-up is huge, right? So everybody's got access to, in First Class University, what we call the secret sauce formula. And if you don't know where to get it, get with your team lead, your BOM, your BOA, they will help you find it. But the big thing there is what we call the secret sauce formula, where it's just how you go about calling and touching base with these people. The very first day is actually kind of the most important one when you're reaching out to them. And it's all about, you call them the first time, and it's, we just have it here as the secret sauce formula, but you call them. If you don't get them, you hang up. You don't leave messages the first time you call. The second time you call again, shortly thereafter. And again, if you don't get them, you hang up, because you're creating the curiosity killed the cat scenario, right? Where they're getting 2 missed calls from the same number, gets them to call you back. Sometimes you're reaching out to somebody and it's not a time of day thing that they're able to actually call. So the third call on that same day one is where you change. If you're calling in the morning, now you call them in the evening, and that change of day is sometimes what allows you to have a live conversation with them. If you're still not able to, that's when you leave a message, and then you rotate through day 2 through 7, and it's just about following up with them. Okay. Again, this is all in your First Class University, so I'm not going to go through all of this right now, because you can go find it there. But your lead callback follow-up script is, and again, Melanie talked about using scripts. This is all about scripts. Again, if you're not using scripts, do use scripts. They feel stilted at first, but the point is that you get it ingrained in you, so that you're able to do what I talked about earlier, is it becomes natural, so that now you're able to use your brain power to actually focus on listening to the conversation that's happening. So, hey, this is David, First Class Real Estate Integrity. You reached out to us a bit ago when you were looking for a new place. The phrasing of that is very important, because it doesn't matter whether that was just earlier this morning or if it was last year. You can use the same phrase. And they were looking for a house, so it's something that it does not a surprise to them as part of the conversation. So then next question, have you found a place that or are you still looking? Right? You just jump right into that. Whether they found one or if they're still looking, you'll notice congratulations are super. It doesn't matter what their answer is. I'm congratulating them on whatever their situation is. And then I work into that. Obviously found a place, did they buy it or did they rent it? And then again, this script is in First Class University. I highly encourage you to get into it and work on learning it and practicing it with your coworkers, your manager, your BOA, your other agents in your office there. Columbo is one of my favorite guys. I don't know if anybody else in here is old enough to have watched this TV show. If you have not, it is available for free or cheap on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, all these places. So Columbo is a detective who solved crimes by listening and playing dumb and then asking very pertinent questions. So this, again, this might not work for everybody, worked really well for me, where I would, again, the script became ingrained in me. So I didn't have to think about what do I need to ask them, which allowed me to then listen to their conversation. And they would be talking, and for example, they would say, we're looking for a house. Well, now I know that there's another person involved, right? So I put this Columbo puzzled face on my face, and I would say, I think I heard you say we, who's we? And then that's how I find out, well, there's a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or dad's involved or whatever. And now I can go down that little rabbit trail shortly and get some more information. So Melanie's script, I want to point out some differences. She's really, that's a live connect. And she wants to get on and off the phone with a hardcore appointment. This is more of a, I'm reaching back out and I need to grab somebody who's a soft or a warm lead and pull them in. So as part of that, I have a more of a general conversation where I'm trying to become their friend and personalize things, okay? So Columbo has a lot of phrases like, oh, by the way, please help me understand, and different phrases that he uses. So look, I encourage our agents to watch this TV show just to get some of the mannerisms and see how that works.
Without the cigar, we're not promoting smoking here, by the way.
True that. All right. So this is some additional phrases. Again, all this is in First Class University, but Troy talked about how I get a lot of information out of people, which helps me later on as I do follow up again, as part of that 5-call follow up and keeping on touch and base to get the appointment with them. It helps me to learn more about them. So I'm going to point out one thing here that I learned a long time ago, just by accident. What kind of schedule do you keep? Do you work 9 to 5 or 5 to 9? In this area, at least I've noticed if I ask people, hey, when are you free? People would often not want to tell me what their free hours are for some reason. I don't know why, right? But if I asked them, do you work 9 to 5 or 5 to 9? That second, who works 9 to 5 who works 5 to 9? That's kind of like crazy hours. And it was like, it was a shock to the brain system or something. And so then they would just blurt out whatever they work. Now I work 7 to 3, I get off at 4 o'clock, about home by 4 o'clock most times, right? The reason I asked that question is because now I know I don't need to call them between 7 o'clock and 3 o'clock. I need to call them right at 4:30, right? Or maybe 3:30 as they're on their drive home, right? Or they, now I know their schedule, so now I know when to call. What kind of monthly payment are you looking for, right? If they don't want to talk to your lender, there's like a little phrase there as well. One of the questions that Melanie asked about the house, the way I phrase it, or have our agents phrase it, is, what about this house interested you? The house that you're calling on, 123 Main Street, what about it is it that interested you? And they'll tell you it's the white picket fence, or it's right near the school where my kids go to, or whatever it is. And that helps you, again, go find those other houses nearby that has that same feature that you're able to meet them at. And again, all these additional phrases are in First Class University. So I'm not going to belabor it. You can go find it. You're all business owners, and I highly encourage you to do that. That is the end of my little presentation. Again, I need to say thank you very much to Legna. And how do I unshare? Is somebody able to unshare me?
Yeah, I think on your
Stop share, there we go.
Bar. There it is.
There we go.
So look, thanks for hanging on, everybody. I noticed that the participant level has stayed because it stayed pretty consistent here because we have some great content. 2 more topics that we are going to hit. So I hope that you could stick with us, right? We're going to touch on buyer brokers and that big mystery here. And then seller objections, because there seems to be just 2 seller objections to overcome. I think a lot of people would love to tap into the equity that they have gotten, but it's the where do I go sort of question, right? So we'll touch on that in a moment. I know that Nadia is on with us, and she wanted to touch a bit about buyer brokers. By the way, that this training, don't leave, even though it's going to be emailed out to the whole company, the recording, so you can go back and review, but hang on. You're always going to be more engaged when it's live. So Nadia, are you on the call?
She typed in she has to leave.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about
Some
buyer
of our
brokers.
team members are here.
All right. So, well, let's chat about, buyer brokers. Any insight into when you're presenting this and what sort of, what are some of the, I guess, the key themes that you're hitting on in order to get this signed and really turn this into a client relationship? I'll share a little bit of what I coach our agents on. And sometimes I think what stops buyers from wanting to sign these are two things. One, they don't know what's in it, right? The other is they don't know why you matter. And there's a lot of agents, I believe, who don't even read the buyer brokers and don't even know what's in it. I would take the time, read it a couple of times so you can kind of digest it. How can you paraphrase it easy? That really what it does, it allows you to go to work for them. Each state is going to have a little bit different language, but that's what it really does. It allows you to go to work for them to protect their interest and to find out the information that they need. Sometimes a buyer broker that could be 1 to 4 pages could be explained that simple, right? But why do you matter to a buyer? You're going to help them find the homes and see the homes that are in their criteria. You're going to help them through the complex steps of buying a home. You've got their back. 3, you're going to make sure that they get a home that is in good condition. And then 4, you're going to make sure that, they're paying the right price for a home, even in a competitive market. So if you really know what your value is to somebody, that you're not just a tour guide, but you're there to protect them during the home buying process. And you can articulate that just that fast, right? Why do you matter to them? And that this buyer broker, or their buyer representation agreement, or however you want to spin it, it's just basically, it allows you to go to work for them. Doesn't mean that you have to buy a house. Sure, we're going to have a relationship. I work with you. I'm your go-to person. But here's the good thing, is that I'm going to be able to go to work for you to make sure that I can help you through this home buying process. You've got me, right? And then there's flexibility on time. If you're signing it up for 6 months or a year, man, that feels like a heavy commitment, does it? But a lot of those buyer brokers kind of auto renew. So even if you wrote it for a month, right, you probably have an auto renew in there for the rest of their lives, right? What I suggest to agents, write it for about 60 days. So now you are also sending a message to them, a psychological message of, hey, we're going to be able to find a home and close on it in the next 2 months, not the next 6 months. And if I start to get some objections on, well, I don't know if I want to sign that, I'll say, well, how about this? We can write this up for a week. And for some reason, if I'm not providing the value, you're going to love me. But for some reason, if I'm not providing the value, then you can go and find the right person to represent you. Another is a sales takeaway, where you could say, hey, I understand you don't want to sign for, a couple of months. And I know you're trying to see if I'm the right person, and I'm trying to see if this is the right relationship for me as well, because I only work with a handful of clients. I want to make sure that mutually this is a great experience. So how about this? I'll write this for 2 weeks. And then for 2 weeks, if I didn't provide top-notch service, then you can go and work with who you want to. So just a few ideas there. But, with a buyer broker, even if you have it signed, you are earning their business every day. Every experience, every showing, every phone call. How responsive are you to their text messages? Are you, clearly communicating what's going on during the transaction or during the offer process? You earn it every time with every client experience. That's my thoughts on that. Any other buyer broker thoughts?
Yeah, I'll add here, and it might be different state to state, but definitely here in Virginia, without that sign, technically the agent is working for the seller. So I use that as a point to explain to the buyer that, well, the listing agent has been hired and has a fiduciary responsibility to work for the seller. And if we don't sign this is the thing that the state makes us sign. Otherwise, you need to look at me kind of like as a used car salesman. And I'd rather be able to be your advocate and your counselor and your assistant. Wouldn't you prefer that as well? And that seems to overcome a lot.
Love it. Any other buyer broker thoughts or objections that you're running into?
I have one. I know Laura McGuire with the VA Realty team in Virginia. One of the things that she said at the event in Clearwater was she'll present the buyer broker at the end of her buyer presentation because she walks them through the process. She handles all their questions about the process to get them very comfortable. And then she presents the buyer broker at the end of that. And when she does it that way, she says they've already become so comfortable working with me by that time that they're just like, oh, it's just another formality. And that's always stuck with me on her presentation of it.
Yeah, and it's similar to what I mentioned, which is, during this buyer presentation, and I really suggest consultations and really kind of learn the art of a good consultation from Dave Greig, who is very helpful on that. And it really helps set the tone for what's coming next, the expectations. You might have looked at like 3 or 4 houses. Get them in the office for an appointment at that point, because you can kind of reset the relationship, get the buyer broker signed, understand what the process is coming up. And then all you do is just prove your value even more. So, when it comes to a buyer consultation, all I'm doing is setting expectations, understanding, letting them understand, hey, you may want to hang on a little bit of money for a home inspection, appraisal, whatever. But I'm getting the buyer broker signed. That's what I'm doing. And this is an old Zig Ziglar tactic that was like in his book or something like that, which is he talked about having the contract out on the table the whole time. So I got used to having my listing agreements, my purchase agreements, my buyer brokers right there at the very beginning. And now the whole time I'm overcoming the objection of signing this, because if I have this hidden somewhere, and I just went through a 15-minute buyer consultation and I pull out this document, I've just pulled out another wall that I have to overcome. And that has always worked for me, that I've always had it out first. And now all I'm doing is proving my value to them to have this signed. I did see in the chat that Manny mentioned that he'll show them some homes. He'll hold off on the buyer broker until he's getting to write the offer. And, in certain states, as Dave mentioned, you're allowed to do that. And as I said, it doesn't matter if you have it signed or not. I can fire you at any time. You earn the business every time. Let's pivot to sellers here with the last couple of minutes. And I think the number one objection right now with sellers is they hear about all the money they can get if they sell their house. But where do they go? And they're afraid. They're afraid that even if I have my house under contract, am I going to go and I'm going to be overpaying for the house of where I'm going, or will I even find a place? So would anyone like to share their thoughts on overcoming this objection?
One of the things is we can offer, since we're selling their house, we can offer a lower rate for helping them buy their house. Right? I was going to say, because I know sometimes when they're buying and they're selling, you can negotiate your commission.
So yeah, you can certainly do that. If you're going to be multi-transactional, I'm going to help you sell, I'm going to help you buy. So look, let me give you a break on the commission to help you out. And that's a talking point, that can help you. And yeah, Melanie, thanks for joining us. We appreciate that as she's jumping into an appointment. We're going to wrap up here in a minute. And one thought I had when it comes to, let's say, a seller objection is if you kind of understand a bit of the process and say, hey, there is going to be a demand for your house. So really what we have to do is find the right buyer, Mr. Seller, that's willing to give you time. And if we just certainly have the language in here saying that you need to have time to find a suitable home, the right buyer is going to be willing to wait. And that's the great thing of why listing your home first will help you for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, you control the process. You control how much time you have to go find your home, which means you can get top dollar on the market and not have to try to sell it quick and undervalue. Number 2, it's going to make you competitive on the next house you're going to try to buy. Because if it is a multiple offer situation and they have 3 offers, but your offer is saying, hey, I have to sell my house and it's not even on the market, you may not be in the conversation. So if I can ensure you that I could list this home with a buyer understanding that you need time to find your next home, would you be willing to list your home and see what your home can bring?
And I think it really goes also to motivation,
Mhm.
right? I agree. When you get that objection, you need to dive into the motivation of why they're thinking of selling at this time. Now, if the motivation is simply, look, I market is hot right now, I know I can make a couple of bucks off my property, then yeah, that does make it a little bit more difficult, because then they also got to spend an extra couple of bucks going to wherever they're moving next, right? But if they're upsizing or downsizing, or something's taking them out of the area, well, that's their pain point, and then you can focus on solving that pain point, which takes away the fear of being homeless. Again, using the thing that you just talked about, Troy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if I can, Troy, if you don't mind.
Please.
I find that, I know that is one of the big objections, right? When a seller's house is on the market and, they're expecting multiple offers, offers over list price, cash guarantees, appraisal shortages, whatever the situation is. They look at it, well, yeah, I'm going to make this crazy amount of money on top of my house, but in order to buy another house, I'm going to have to make, take that money and put it down on another house, which is potentially true. I was in a situation a couple of times last year with some buyers, one being my brother. I was able to force him to do whatever he had to do because he's my brother, but he was in the same situation. He's like, well, man, I'm going to make, 60 grand off the sale of my house, but in order to buy my next house, because he was downsizing a little bit, he's like, I'm going to have to spend X amount on the downsize. And I was able to spend, I was like, well, listen, if you look at it this way, yeah, that's equity money in your house that you have and that you've built over the last 2 years of living here. And that's just going, it's kind of a wash. It's free money that you're getting, and it's money you're putting down on the next house. And then with the average inflation rate of property values over the last, 5-6 years, it's going to more than make up for itself if you're in there long enough to recuperate some of the equity back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I explained it like that it was, yeah, it's your money you're taking to sell and then to buy again, but it's kind of a wash. It's not really here, not really there. When I explained it that way, he kind of understood it.
Yeah, and it's like, be ready for that conversation, right? A lot of these script and objection handlers are not on the spot. This is preparation. You've practiced, you game plan for it, that if you're going to communicate with sellers or have a listing presentation, you got two things, right? Like, I've already done the math that if somebody wanted to go and sell their $200,000 house to go buy a $300,000 house, and they're thinking, well, am I going to be overpaying? I could say, well, in this area, homes will appreciate 2 to 5% every year. Last year, it's been like 10 to 14%. But even if it was at the average about 3%, that $300,000 home, next year it's 308. The year after that, it's 318. So your investment is already growing. Also, if you go into your MLS, they always have some sort of stats feature in there. In our local one, we can look back at home sale prices over the last 10 years. And, I pulled some graphic that showed over the last 10 years, all the home prices just kept going up. Sometimes it level off a little bit for about a few months and then kind of go up, but it was just, the graph just went straight up. So it's like, well, if you plan to stay there a few years, guess what? That house you're buying, it's going to appreciate. It's going to be worth more. Not often do we go backwards in the market. So, but any other thoughts or any sort of objections we can hit as we wrap up here?
I've got one for a seller that we're working with right now, because we have the listing, we put it on the market, and we received an offer, and it was a solid offer, but the seller started freaking out because we hadn't found them a home yet. So she was reluctant to take the offer. What do you guys recommend in that situation?
So I've got one right now, a client of mine that we negotiated a free rent back, right, for a period of time. If they're a little bit more wary of it, then just put a really long closing date, 90-day closing date out there, and have the contract subject to seller finding house of and closing on house of their choice. And then that protects the seller. That's their out. Now, look, I have to say, talk to your attorney in your state, right? But that's what works for me here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've noticed in multiple
freaking out.
situations that when a seller is asking for a rent back, that a lot of buyers are saying, sure, you can just stay there for free for the next 2 months, And that's been the latest tactic in the multiple offer market, is free rent back to the sellers.
Yeah, we've tried explaining that to the seller, and because they even gave us like a 60-day closing, and we put it out there, but the seller, she's just freaking out so much, and we're just like trying to calm her down and say we have a plan for moving forward, but she's not receptive to it all the time.
Hey, see, that's why you exist, right? That's why they need real estate agents, because it is so hard to automate human emotions and dealing with fear and anxiety and everything like that. That's why it's going to be so hard to just, I think a certain percentage of the business, people will hit the buy now button like on Amazon and get a house. But I think we as agents are going to stick around for a while and help people through those things. My last suggestion on that would be, maybe there's a success story of someone, in your office or in the company who's been through a similar situation, that'd be willing to, I don't know, write a review or something like that, or just a story of, hey, such and such was in the same situation, and here's how, we or they were able to help navigate through that. So it's, they're hearing it from a real person and not a real estate agent, and maybe that helps settle in their mind a little bit. Maybe, Hannah, maybe, right? Awesome. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I wanted to, keep it within a certain time frame, and I wanted to thank everybody who jumped on today. I wanted to thank those that were so helpful, Dave and Manny and Melanie, and some of those example calls. We will send out the recording, and then in the chat, Brian did mention he has a training on putting offers in this market that is coming up at 2:30. So you can segue from one to the next, even listen in on the phone, no matter where you are. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you.